Thank you for staying with us on this segment of this program on this platform, Celeb Cafe. And I still have with me the founder and the chief executive officer of Blacks Ancestral Native Communities Foundation, who also is a certified lifestyle instructor and a business magnate, and that starts talking about tourism business. He's a tourism magnate. All right, we got talking about the psychology aspect of him, and we talked about abnormal behaviors, and we were able to highlight the reason people behave abnormally and the strategies for sorting people out when they behave abnormally. But we want to talk about the other aspect of him, which has to do with the founding of Blacks Ancestral Native Communities Foundation. Dr. Oyema, what's this all about? Blacks Ancestral Native Communities Foundation.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Every organization, especially one that has to do with ideology, must have behind and beside it some very checkered history. The same goes for Blacks Ancestral Native Communities Foundation. It didn't start as Blacks Ancestral Native Communities. It started as Blacks in All Nations Community in the USA. This was how many years ago now?
Blacks in All Nations was your initiative too.
Blacks in All Nations Community is actually the original initiative that was founded in the United States on the request of ancestral Black people whose grandparents were sold into slavery and who watched their father, mother, parents, as it were, die, some of whom have lost their parents without having the opportunity and privilege of returning to Africa. When you discuss with an average Black in the United States, African American, whether it's in the United States or in the Caribbean or in Europe, anywhere in the world that you find an ancestral Black person who has not been to Africa, you find that number one on their bucket lists is to visit Africa in their lifetime. And so I had such encounters in the United States in 2015. It was 2015. And with a compelling and urgent request that they would need to be organized in such a way that they can return home to Africa to buy real estate, invest, build homes, even locate their ancestral roots, take on native names, acculturate with their people, and feel the belonging of having a native home. When I received that request from very genuine professional Black Americans, I didn't know what to do with it at the time. But I began this movement, which is a movement because it's something that has no ending. But I didn't do much with it. Reason being that I was seeking to find people who can envision with me a sustainable plan that once implemented could create or birth an organization that would outlive us. My wife, of course, is my first partner in this. Before I reached out to the most dependable, very senior ally of mine, Dr. Nnamdi Wosu, and shared with him at the time the promptings that I was receiving from these Black friends and brothers and sisters, some of whom at that time had begun the Ancestry.com research, most of whom had at the time found that they were Nigerians, some Senegalese, some Cape Verdeans, others, but majorly West Africans. And so we began to think around what name to give the organization. And it just came naturally that this will be a community that will be like a family. Because the family system is Africa's greatest niche. And I thought, and we thought, as we continue to brainstorm back and forth, that the best thing to do for an ancestral Black person in the diaspora would be to create a family system whereby he can belong and feel that sense of inclusiveness and relate freely without malice and without fear of prejudice with people of the same color and culture, even though the culture is distorted. That's how Blacks in All Nations community came about. So you can see it is Blacks. So wherever, in whatever community you find yourself and you're Black, ancestral Black, just know that you have a community that you can belong.
You're talking about Blacks in America, Blacks in Europe,
Blacks everywhere
Blacks
in the world.
Jamaica,
yes,
anywhere in the world
and
at all.
as I sit talking with you, we have representation all over the world. The movement is growing into a movement of people of interest.
And Blacks are buying into it.
Yes, and they are the ones who asked for it. And they are the ones who are trying with us now to make it into a formidable organization.
So there are Blacks who want to come back to their roots.
They are hungry. So hungry.
To know and come back to their roots.
And they weep when they talk to you about it. In fact, I met an old lady in Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, in the US, who shared with me the writings of her grandfather in his diary, in his notebook. And the grandfather's wish, greatest wish and desire, was to wake up one morning on the African soil, in the locality, in the environment, in the traditional circle where he had been uprooted from. Mm-hmm. He wished daily until he died to return back to Africa, but he couldn't actualize that. His own father, and this woman was originally, of course, before coming to Cincinnati, Ohio, was originally from, I think, Trinidad and Tobago, before eventually ending up in the United States. And so where she would call home, which of course is also not home for her, was Trinidad and Tobago. And this woman was in her late 70s at the time we met. She's passed on to glory now, but she didn't even get the chance herself of returning fully, but she visited Africa.
So Blacks Ancestral Native Community Foundation is trying to create a brotherhood environment for Blacks all over the world.
Now, I had to create the background for you to understand how this whole thing evolved. With the one in the United States, in diaspora, we then decided that there has to be a mother organization that will harness all of what we intend to achieve. And that was how Blacks Ancestral Native Communities was created.
Okay. Now, it's interesting because as you were speaking, something was coming to my mind. While some Blacks in the diaspora are hungry for home to come back to their roots, there are other people who want to leave their roots for other places in the name of Japa.
Well, very recently, soon from now, September 19, precisely, we'll be having a summit in Abuja that is themed the Japa Conundrum. And this is all about this Japa syndrome. We want to let young people know that whereas you want to run off to other climes, the people whom you're running to wish to return home. No place is like home. And that's why you will find a slave who lives in a mansion, still desire and hunger to return back to his or her ancestral roots, where there is poverty, and where you, the master, thinks that you have saved him or her from. The greatest desire of every child is to wake up in his natural environment.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter the conditions.
The environment. It doesn't matter the condition. Home is home.
Yes.
Home sweet home.
Yes. And for those even who are escaping, because the word escape is what I prefer to use, because there are precursors, there are conditions that lead to this desire to travel, to run off from native homes. Includes unemployment, hunger, hopelessness, bleak future,
lack of infrastructure.
Lack of infrastructure. Of course, you see, lack of infrastructure is caused by, will be a precursor to, these whole things. So for those who want to run away, I say, think and think again. Because whereas I'm not stopping anyone from going, I am only trying to, and that's what we want to achieve as Blacks Ancestral Native Community, to create the picture, because most people who desire to go have not gone anywhere before. And everyone on our team, in our executive board and management, are people who have tested life in the West and returned.
Now, what is the advice, because of time, that you have for young people and even adults these days who are craving to leave Nigeria for greener pastures? What's one, from your experience, what would you say to somebody who wants to leave now?
They need to know history of both Nigeria, Africa, and that other desired country where they wish to run off to.
Now, before we came on this platform, we were talking about the fact that you are the author of a theory called the non-classroom intelligence. What's this all about as we begin to round off? Does it have anything to do with the Japa syndrome?
Well, yes. I would say yes. Non-classroom intelligence is the native intelligence. It is a mundane intelligence. It's innate intelligence. You don't need to go to school to learn skill that will actually take you beyond where academic certification and qualifications can take you. So the non-classroom intelligence is to bring out the naturalness in every individual in areas of his or her interests. Some will be more electrical minded than others, while some will be technological. Others will be, God has gifted us differently, and that's the idea. You find that a child from 2 years will begin to exhibit certain dispositions that will suggest to you that this child will do better as a theater artist.
So you're saying to all the Blacks all over the world that it is not necessary, or should I put it as not necessary, that there are other areas to look at besides academics?
Oh yes, it is necessary to get academic qualifications, but it is not compulsory.
Okay.
It is not a knowledge without which you cannot exist.
The alternative is to look inward.
Look inwards. What can I do with my hands?
That goes in line with the slogan now that America has adopted via Michelle Obama: do something.
Yes, you need to do something.
Africans, do something.
Solve a problem. And from that problem solving, you carve a niche for yourself. Create employment.
Dr. Onyema, thank you for coming.
Pleasure is mine.
It's short. I would have loved that we go on and on this program, but we hope that some other time you come on this program.
Outcome.
And I like this brotherhood thing about Black Africans, and I wish you success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.